I've been on a kick lately of luxury SUVs, and well, I've got a nice one behind me. Hey, welcome to this edition of Road Warrior. I'm your host, Grant Roberson. Now behind me is the 2015 Lincoln Navigator, a long-standing vehicle in the Ford family. Now what's great about this, of course, is delivering that premium luxury in a full-size offering. So let's look at the numbers. One thing you're going to notice on the Lincoln Navigator, it makes no apologies, well, about the exterior. And what I'm referring to, well, is the squared off lines. Now, we just test drove the QX80. That a little bit more voluptuous in the curves. This one, pretty much a straight shooter, and I kind of like that. What I do like is the fact that it's going to give you a lot more offering on the inside in general when it has the squared off lines. And it also has that true utilitarian kind of exterior. When you go luxury, you don't really want a lot of fluff around the edges. You really want a nice premium vehicle, but still utilitarian. Now, by the numbers, basically the Navigator falls well into the full-size market, around about 207 inches with a wheelbase about 119. Now, there is a long version, which is going to give you a lot more cargo at the back end. Now, when you look at the width and height, well, they're equal, around about 78 inches. Now, that's pretty good heft, really, when it comes to the overall height, of course. Now, it's going to make you feel like you're barely squeezing in those parking decks, but truly, they're going to fit because most of those are right at 7 feet. Now, the width really coming in at 78 inches, that means you're going to take up a lot of width on the road just the same, plus in those tight spots in the parking lot. One of the biggest differences you're going to find between all the SUVs has to be the grille warfare and what's up front and center. Now, what I like on Lincoln's version here really is the dual chrome grills, split by the stylized Lincoln emblem. Now, this is a really nice adorn, and of course body color all the way around, to be expected on a premium vehicle. Now, as you sweep down, a little bit more chrome, tucked in fog lights, nice headlights under a nice clear lens, really down low, nice airflow, even huge grab tow bars if you need them. And what you're going to find is kind of a little air dam that really deflects air up into that little port there, helping breathe this engine and send a little bit more airflow down the vehicle. Looking down the side of the Lincoln one more time, what you're going to notice is really the tight body lines. Really, over the evolution of this vehicle, we've kind of maybe liposuctioned it just a hair. I recall maybe a little bit more haunches. This one, a lot more sleek design. Now, what you're going to notice is the ground clearance. Now, it's typical SUV. It's going to kind of drive like an SUV, kind of truckish, a little bit rough, but not too bad. And what you're going to find is about 8 inches of ground clearance. Now, what does that mean? Well, pretty much a good step in height to get in this vehicle. Again, to be expected. But one thing that helps with that is step rails, and what you see here, well, there isn't any. Well, shockingly, you open the door and it simply folds out. Now, a lot of vehicles are taking different approaches to this. Some include these hydraulic rails, other ones have them kind of in a niche already there. Really, you're kind of a flip of a coin which you prefer. Lastly is what you're sitting on. Now, this is 22-inch wheels. There are standard 20-inch if you prefer. One trivial fact I've been hitting on lately is really coming down to the fuel fill up. Now, a lot of vehicles really come in with a lock cap. You pull in a lever, it's going to pop open. Well, this one pretty much there when you need it, no locking at all. Now, what I do like is the capless fill up. No cap, just simply put the fuel pump in and forget about it. Now, a little note here, does have a 28-gallon tank. Just because this vehicle is maybe refined and a little bit pretty on the inside, well, doesn't mean you can't treat it like a true sport utility. Now, during my week-long stint, we had kind of a home improvement project, and we threw a lot of supplies on the inside, regardless of the leather trim. Now, what you're going to see here at the back end is probably one of the widest offerings in the SUV market, really giving you a lot of ease of ingress and, heck, a lot of glass. Now, what's great, this is a premium vehicle, so you expect a power hatch, and they deliver. Now, you simply press the button here. It's going to power out of the way, and to note, it's actually fairly quick. Now, what you're going to see really is the third row to start. Now, back behind the third row, about 18 cubic feet. Decent numbers, going to fall into kind of the full-size sedan comparison. Now, if you fold down the third row, where you're going to easily triple that to around about 54 cubic feet of space. Transforming cargo should be made easy. Well, Navigator made that real simple, really, with these power buttons here on the side wall. Now, this is nothing new to the industry, but just a little point to hit on. Simply press the corresponding button and the rear third seat's going to tumble forward. Now, this splits about an 80-20, allowing you to kind of put cargo and people at the same time. Now, you can simply lay all this flat, do a whole bunch of transformations, really whatever you need. With different vehicles comes different operations, and really comes down to the power hatch. A lot of them putting the buttons up here. This vehicle putting them on the back wall, which helps with a little bit of ease. Now, you simply press that, it's going to come right down. Well, one thing to note is the back glass. A lot of vehicles not allowing you to pop that glass, simply only the hatch. Now, the hatch popping really came into play on this vehicle because we were able to run a 14-foot board right down the center of this vehicle, leaving the extra hanging out. Now, the way to do that, well, there's a simple button in the middle to raise the hatch, or a button kind of way over here that's going to pop it. Now, even with the windshield wiper here, it still is able to fold out of the way, giving you tons of access, and taking the cargo from the inside to the out. For this full-size SUV, well, you expect maybe a full-size engine under the hood. Well, don't expect a V8, because really Ford and Lincoln have changed the mindset that you need all that. Instead, they're bringing the Ecoboost engines to the market. Even here, this one being a 3.5-liter V6 engine. Now, what they've done is really add the twin turbochargers to get all the horsepower you're going to need. Now, what are those numbers? 380 horses and 460 foot-pounds of torque. Plenty of power, even better for the towing, around about 9,000 pounds. Now, this engine is coupled to a 6-speed automatic transmission, and at the end of the day, this whole package means decent fuel efficiency. One area I like to start in for a full-size SUV is the back third row, because after all, this is just as much importance as any other row, really, when it comes to legroom numbers. And what I found back here, a lot to go around about 37 inches, equally compared to a lot of vehicles' second row. Now, the way they get that really is by elevating this back row kind of over the rear axle, a little bit more elevation, which allows your knees to be in kind of a natural position. That compared to another vehicle we just test drove where the knee position was a lot higher, a little less comfortable. Now, what you're going to find is seating for 3 back here. You do have the headrests that really fold out of the way when you don't need them. That's going to give the driver better visibility, but when people come back here, simply flip it up for the person. One thing that people forget about really back here is the creature comforts for your third row passengers, and thankfully Lincoln has delivered, really coming down to the vent, the airflow, of course the overall comfort, and last but not least, the cup holders. You got 2 on this side and 1 over there. Plenty of places to put your beverages for all 3 people. Talking about the third row, really want to talk about ingress into the back seat. Now, what we've seen in a lot of vehicles is different methodology for this second row. Really got to get it out of the way to get back there. Now, this is set up with 3 people in the back, 3 in the middle, and 2 up front, which means you got the most occupancy, but maybe the most aggravation when it comes to back there, because you don't have captain chairs and that center aisle. So it really comes down to this vehicle. And now this is kind of a multi-step process. The first thing you need to do is, instead of actually having to remove this, they made it easy. You're simply going to pull on this, tumble this headrest forward. Now you're going to pull on this handle here. That's going to flip this seat back down. Lastly, pull it again, and it's going to tumble this seat. Now, it's kind of a 3-step process, really not that big a deal. We actually test drove a more premium vehicle, a lot more money than this, and what it had was a power option. Press the button, all this is done for you. Looking at the second row creature comforts, again with the airflow, and they got the built-in vents here just the same. Again, giving individualized attention here to the second row occupants, just the same as the third. Now, it may go to the back seat passenger's head, all the comforts they get back here, and the control. What I'm referring to really is the tri-zone system. They have their own climate system, really picking the vents, the airflow, the temperature. Even better, they can control the entertainment. Simply pressing a couple buttons, change the radio. When you do finally make it to the front seat, well, the captain chair is probably where you're going to want to be because there's a lot of creature comforts and even better legroom numbers. Now up front, you're going to have around about 43 inches of legroom. Second row about 39. Now what does that mean at the end of the day? Pretty much anyone can find comfort anywhere you sit. Now as for up here, well, you got a really big split between the front seats, and it all comes together really with this huge elbow support as the center console, nice and padded. They do have dual cup holders back here that can really be accessed by anyone, and dual cup holders up here just the same. Now as for the center console, really deep storage and a lot of connectivity, USB connections, a SD drive, power supply, and an upper tray for some coins. Looking at center dash, is going to be the entertainment system and the 4-quadrant you find on any Ford and Lincoln this day, and really it's all touchscreen. And what I like is the ability to see a lot going on at one time. Simply hit the corresponding quadrant, it's going to zoom in, give you all the functions, hit the home button, it's going to go back. Now what's great, that's kind of an easy reach from the driver's position. Now down below, a little bit more controls, equal knobs for kind of the volume and tune select, and a few buttons in between. Now everything below that really focusing on climate. Now these buttons are really going to coordinate with the touchscreen. Temperature select, dialing in specific temperature. Now what's great, the heating and cooling of the seats on this vehicle, simply press it, 3 levels of comfort, and various mode buttons down below. Looking at the gauges, you have a huge analog speedometer right there front and center, and digital readouts to the left and right, giving you kind of up-to-date vehicle information. That does it for this edition of Road Warrior and our test drive behind the wheel of a premium full-size SUV, the 2015 Lincoln Navigator. Now again, this is going to deliver a lot of occupancy plus the cargo to boot, and heck, it's got that new Ecoboost engine under the hood, delivering a lot of horsepower in a very small, well, V6 engine. Now as always, I'd like to thank you for watching this edition of Road Warrior. Keep both hands on the wheel and eyes straight ahead.